Welcome back to Movies That Matter, the podcast where entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. I'm Chris Flaherty, and thank you for joining us from the podcast studio at Burlington Cable Access Television. Today will be a first for the pod as we discuss our first documentary, Banksy, I can't say it. What? The street guy.
Yeah.
Bansky's Exit Through the Gift Shop. It premiered at the Sundance Film Festival on January 24th, 2010, and was narrated by Rhys Ifans. I can pronounce that right.
Yeah.
Wow. And features appearances, and I say that in quotations, by Banksy and other famous street artists. And now I'd like to welcome my guest today who's here to talk about the film with me, Dan Barbour, Programming Director of the Burlington Public Library. Dan, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for introducing me to this wonderful new film.
I'm glad you got to see it.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Exit Through the Gift Shop, but real quick, I know you're a big Oscar person like me.
Yeah.
What did you think about this year's ceremony?
Like many years, it's kind of like a lot of my 3rd out of 5 choices would take it home. I thought Honora was a good movie. I didn't think it was a great movie. It was in the middle. I think it was number 5 when I did the ranking.
Yeah.
I always see all of them, and I'd seen all of them, and I was pulling for Demi, and I was I felt actually crushed when that transpired, that upset, so to speak.
I was very surprised that the seasoned veteran lost to the relative newcomer.
Yeah, I mean, history kind of showed it coming with people like Emma Stone taking it for La La Land against, and then like when Glenn Close lost to Olivia Colman. It wasn't unheard of, but I guess the heart just felt like the narrative was there, the work was there. Like that's the difference. Sometimes it's more of a, it's a sentimental pick, a throwaway vote just because we love her. Demi killed it in the substance, so that's why I was like really bummed.
I was kind of sad that Margaret didn't get nominated for the substance either.
Yeah, I was surprised too. That was a weird category there, but I thought it was a good ceremony overall. I thought it had some weak moments like most years, but I think Conan's always solid.
Conan
so that
was
fun.
great.
Yeah, he did a great job, and I'm pretty sure he's coming back. So
yeah, no, he is.
Yeah,
like you, I was like, I did like Honora, but I had no idea it was going to sweep.
Yeah,
I
was thrilled that in international feature, Amelia Perez did not win.
That
felt like it was still going to happen. I didn't predict it happening, and that was one of my heart picks that actually carried through. I liked I'm Still Here a lot more than that, so it was good to see that lose. I still can't believe it won Best Song, but still, we'll just move past it.
We'll move past it. We don't have to talk about Amelia Perez anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Daniel, in your own words, can you tell me what is Exit Through the Gift Shop about?
Sure. So on the surface, it's a tight 90-minute, fast-paced documentary that talks about street art and the world of street art. If you're not familiar with street art, it's basically an instantly constructed work that's typically done in an unauthorized way in a public setting. And we get to see some of the big players in it, at least when the film was released. Some of them are still working today. And we get to see it through the lens of one man, Mr. Brainwash, but then through another lens of Banksy. Banksy directed the film and edited from thousands upon thousands of hours of footage and put together something that is a puzzle for the viewer. A documentary, but so much more.
Yeah, no, it's interesting how it starts out like Mr. Brainwash. He is just kind of aimless, and he is filming street art, and then Banksy tells him, like, you should make a documentary about this.
Yeah.
And then Banksy watches the documentary, and he's like, oh, no.
This is garbage. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get into the whole, like, trajectory of this film, but it's fascinating.
It is.
So what was your knowledge of Banksy, and I'm going to pronounce his name like 7 different ways in this hour.
I know, right?
Yeah.
That's fun.
What was your knowledge of him in street art prior to this film?
Almost nothing. So I was the weird kid who used to follow the trades. I for Christmas I would ask for a variety subscription.
Nice.
I would get the trades, and I remember an article came out about this weird art documentary that was going to be coming out later this year. It was probably covered in the Sundance coverage. And I just put it on my list. And when I know I want to go see a movie, I try to avoid trailers. I try to avoid almost everything about it because I want my first experience and introduction to what I hear is supposed to be really good to go in blind. I've done that with a few movies. I remember when Parasite was making the buzz. I'm like, I want to know nothing about it. And it pays off. I really think it pays off if you hear just as little as possible.
That's nice. I do try to like avoid too many trailers, but it's hard.
It is. It is
because
hard.
it's all water cooler moments.
Yeah, exactly.
You see the trailer for this, and then you get a trailer for the trailer. And
Exactly.
all that stuff.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah.
So tell me about the first time you watched this film.
Sure. So I remember after having it on my must-see list, I went to Boston the day it opened, Kendall Square, actually Cambridge, Kendall Square Theater. That was one of my favorite theaters back in the day because they were one of the only ones that would get some of the real artsy films. This documentary did play. It wasn't impossible to see at the time it came out, but it wasn't everywhere. I lived right outside of Worcester at the time. And I had to go to Boston to see it.
So you traveled for
yes.
this film.
And to me, that's not much. An hour to go see something I've been looking forward to, that's worth it.
Yeah. Very cool. Awesome. What stuck out with you in that first viewing?
Sure. So I remember the first time I watched it. I've seen it about 7 or 8 times now. The first time I remember being just completely shocked by the style. I had seen a number of documentaries at that point. I've seen quite a few over the years. But this was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Just the way it was told, the structure was so unique.
Yeah.
And it was a world that I wasn't overly familiar with. Like I said, I didn't know Banksy. I didn't know street art that much. But I was so interested from the second the movie started. And that's different because sometimes movies take a little while to grab you. This one, from the moment it started, I was thoroughly engaged. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, this is a movie that not only am I enjoying, but I'm going to tell a lot of people to see because I think they'll be shocked like I will.
So what did you think of Terry when the film first... Mr. Brainwashed now. Yeah. What did you think of Terry?
So it's interesting. He's one of the most interesting characters in a movie, both fictional or documentary. He is someone who my heart goes out to. He is a creative type. He wants to be something he is not equipped to be. And I think that this movie covers that in a big way. We have grown up in a culture that says you do a good job, no matter how good that job is. And Terry is the byproduct of that. He is also the byproduct of a lot of childhood trauma. And it was the perfect storm of getting someone who just thought they knew what they were doing because they watched it a lot. And it was, and my heart broke for him in a little bit of way. In one hand, it's easy if someone came up and said, "Oh, he was so pathetic." I would say, I see your point. But I think there's more there, and I felt for him. I really did.
Some of the comments on Letterboxd I saw were calling him the Tommy Wiseau of street art.
That's a little harsh.
I think he's got a little more creativity going
funny,
for him
though.
other than Tommy. But
that's funny.
Yeah. Did you see, like, by the time the film ended, did you think they portrayed him in a positive light? Because I feel like as like the film went on, Banksy himself, I'm going to pronounce it different every time.
That's great.
I feel like he turned on him at the end of the film, for sure.
You know, I think you could say that, and I can see where you'd be coming from, but I also think Banksy made him. So in a sense, he would never have been where he was without Banksy.
Right.
And I think, Banksy identified in someone who really wanted to be in the spotlight, and he didn't care how he got there. So in a sense, while Banksy was, maybe he went from a serious artist, or whatever you got to see anyway at the beginning, to a, or maybe a filmmaker, to a, wow, this is crazy. He's embarrassing me. However, we can save this. And so in a sense, Banksy put him on the map, for better or worse.
It's like the monster that Dr. Frankenstein created.
Exactly.
And that last image of him graffitiing "Life is Beautiful" on the right, and then instantly smashed. I'm like, wow, if that doesn't just and we're going to talk about it back and forth, but there's been a lot of debate on whether this is a real documentary.
Yes.
What do you think?
So I came to the conclusion that it doesn't matter. Okay. I think mission accomplished. Banksy did what he needed to do with this film. I buy a lot of it because a lot of it is archival footage. A lot of it is captured, and the things that most resonated with me were things that have been verified. Now, the structure and the way he told it, and there are some liberties that may have been taken. He's telling a story. He's putting together a movie that the viewer should want to watch. And I think the overall message is solid and sound and factual, that if he took some liberties, I'm sure if we examined every documentary, every film out there, we would find inconsistencies. It was funny, though, to see, because he is a prankster. Yeah,
and you could say it's truth, but it's his version of the truth.
Right.
And his version is different than Terry's version or Invader's version, all the different street arts versions. I will say I was totally on board, this is real. I don't know why people say this is false, until the elephant showed up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you get an elephant?
So it's interesting. So I think within this culture, especially we're talking about like Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, that art scene, knowing something was going to be that big and attract these A-list celebrities to come by, that didn't strike me as abnormal. I bet they've seen a lot weirder things on a Tuesday at In-N-Out, let alone at an art gallery.
Well, that blew my mind with the file footage. I was like, there's Brad and Angelina and Christina Aguilera and Jude Law. I'm like, wow, okay. This is big.
Yeah, and it's not surprising for that scene. That's probably the place you want to be seen. That's another chance to get in the tabloids, another chance to be, out there. And when your career depends on that, it's not overly, beyond the realm of possibility.
Right. Yeah, so the elephant definitely threw me. And then, I don't know, the more it went on, I was kind of thinking, like, is Terry not real?
Yeah.
And I'm just like, is he like is he a stand-in for us or for what Banksy thinks of us or how we perceive him in a way?
Yeah, and I can see that a lot. I could see that he would serve as the representation of the way we quickly flock to everything shiny.
Yeah.
It's, there's a few things I'm going to talk about a little bit later, but I think that Banksy has a really good pulse on what annoys him in society. And this film was a nice way to showcase that and trick the viewer. We were like a prank victim, so to speak, into seeing some of that in a new way.
Yeah.
And I think that's so cool.
I forget what the quote was, like, the joke's on someone, but I don't,
Yeah, I know. He has a lot of great quotes. I don't actually know if I wrote that one down, but yeah.
What are some of your favorite scenes or moments from the film?
Sure. There's two that I absolutely love. One of them I've loved every time I've seen it since it first came out, the Disneyland sequence.
I did want to talk about the Disneyland sequence, because wow, that's wild. Yeah. It's wild.
Not only is it like Disney has crazy security in general. So the first amazing feat, and this is to me when if people were poking like this could never have happened, I would say this is the area that I would have more cloud about, but it was a fascinating sequence where he not only is able to pull off this, installation that he brings into the park. Just getting it into the park to me seemed like, wow, that's amazing. You got an art installation.
They do bag checks.
Right, exactly. But then install it and then film it. I was uncomfortable. Even the most recent time watching it, it made me so uncomfortable. And I loved that. Like, it's just like we are watching security footage, from one guy's perspective. And then everything about, Small World's a creepy ride anyway. But this to hear about the interrogation, that felt straight out of Family Guy. But it was really, really fascinating to watch.
Put him in Disney jail.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other scene that I thought was really chilling given our current political climate was the scenes in Gaza and seeing the work that he did over in the Middle East and his protest pieces about the occupation. I was so riveted by that because it hit me the first time I watched it for sure. Like, oh, wow, there's a lot going on over there, like whatever. But now that it's so at the forefront, there was an article recently that was talking about the pieces of his that have survived the bombings. And I thought that was fascinating just to see which ones of his pieces are still up there that they showcase a little bit in the movie.
Yeah, that's incredible because he says, like, from the beginning, like, our line of work is temporary, like street art, because he almost like a day later, some authorities will come down and wash it off the
streets. Exactly. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. And he has a book where he talks about what if there was a city where street art was legal. It was legal to do this. Imagine how beautiful a city that would be, and the biggest worry you'd have is getting wet paint on yourself. And I just think that's such a beautiful image, the thought of just everyone not being demonized for, taking
just
these brick walls and being creative. Yeah.
It's crazy to me that this guy's identity is still a mystery to everyone.
It seems like they figured it out, but I don't like to even look behind that curtain. I like Banksy being a mystery. Right, exactly. I know I see breaking news every few years, like confirmed. You can do a Google search. You can learn it if you want. It's still not completely confirmed. Right. And I like that. I think the mystery makes it so much more interesting.
Yeah, I think some people are like, "Oh, if we live in Bristol, like who it is."
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, "Well, do I want to know who it is?" Right. But it also drives me. It always like intrigues me when people come like, "There's a good chance you've met him, and you'll never know."
Yes.
And just even Disneyland, like he got in and out without being detected. And Terry took the fall for him.
It's wild. Which hey, talk about a wingman. That's great.
I know, and he even says that this is why like I started to really trust Terry.
Yes.
I'm like, you almost got him Disney jail. You owe him at least that.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So we talked about one sticking ahead. In all the times you've watched this film throughout the years, are there any specific viewings that stick out in your memory?
Well, definitely the first one. The first one was special because I convinced my dad to come and see it. My dad is the I love my favorite 3 movies, and I will watch those 3 movies to death. And he doesn't like to get outside of the cinematic comfort zone, his cinematic comfort zone, so to speak. But I told him the quick little elevator pitch that I knew. It's like street art. You go behind the scenes, you follow street art. Looks really cool. And he's like, yeah, okay, I'll try it. And he loved it. And we are so different on so many film takes. We are different on political takes. We are different on so many things. But I always joke with my friends that if my dad and I both like a movie, the studios should be taking note and putting a lot of effort behind that one, because it's going to be big.
What are like your dad's 3 favorites?
A Few Good Men, Field of Dreams, and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Wow. Field of Dreams. That seems like a typical dad favorite for sure.
Yeah.
And props for Bill and Ted.
Yeah, but
honestly.
not the sequels at all. So
I've never even touched the sequels.
It's so funny.
So I get it.
Yeah.
What was the first one again?
A Few Good Men.
Few Good Men. Okay, yeah, that's another typical dad movie. Army
exactly.
stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So you got him to see that. Have you convinced him to watch anything else?
I did get him to see Parasite. He hates subtitles,
Oh.
and which is so frustrating. But it's him, and that's fine. But he did like Parasite too. But
Nice.
it didn't. The next time a movie with subtitles came around, I'm like, "Come see Anatomy of a Fall," and he's like, "No." I was like, "I'm good." It's like, okay.
Even if it's in English, I need to watch it with subtitles sometimes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the Velma meme, like my subtitles, I can't see without my subtitles.
It's wild. I know. I haven't watched Kneecap yet. I don't know. Have you seen Kneecap?
I have not seen Kneecap
I've
yet.
heard it's great, but I've
Yeah.
heard that even when they're not speaking in the dialect, that the English is so hard you need the subtitles for that.
Wow.
It's on Netflix now, so I'm looking forward to it.
I've been cleaning out my Netflix list
Oh
lately.
yeah, that's
so,
hard
yeah.
to do. Yeah.
So did this film change your perspective on street art or street artists?
100%. So I was never quite aware of the quote unquote vandalism around me. And now I am. It's interesting because now I am constantly appreciating things that I see. And especially when you're in the city, I lived in Waltham for a year and there's tons of street art there. And it's so interesting to see that most people don't tag their work, obviously,
Right.
but some people do. And following them and seeing what they're doing, there's this walking path in Waltham that goes all the way into Boston. And some of the stuff that you see just on your walks is just so impressive, and it makes you look like you look at things in a new way, and I think that's so interesting. They joke about like a lot of people didn't want to go in showers after Psycho or in the water after Jaws.
Yeah.
You can't look at a spray can the same way after watching this movie, and I think that's so interesting.
I think I need to. I live in Waltham. I think
Oh, really?
I
Yeah,
need
nice.
to
Yeah.
explore
Yeah,
some
yeah,
more
yeah. No, it's
street
good
art
stuff.
because we love Burlington, but you don't see
Yeah.
any street art around here.
Not yet, Burlington.
Not
yeah,
yet.
yeah.
I think the most is like when the artists and they're commissioned to, they paint the utility boxes.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
which is a great idea. Great
Yeah,
idea.
I love that. You're not doing any street art these days, are you, Dan?
I can't say.
All right, good. Yeah, you learned. You learned. So I think this film has a lot to say about the idea of artist versus celebrity.
Yeah.
Can we spend a minute on that? What's
Sure.
your take?
I think there is not a better case study in movies about that. I think that, Mr. Brainwash is the figure that we watch when we talk about this. It's someone who had, like we said, childhood trauma, but then he found a passion. But he lived in a society where everyone said you can do whatever you want. And he was very privileged. He had money to burn. He owned a couple stores, vintage clothing shops, and and then he started mortgaging everything just to like keep fueling this passion.
Right.
But he just wasn't good at it. And he probably had a lot of talents, and he just didn't take the time to focus on those. And instead he pursued something that was a passion project. And I'm not saying people shouldn't pursue passion projects, but there's a point where we need to kind of find the right passion project. And I think he was so obsessed with becoming this notable artist because he had followed so many of them.
Right.
He got addicted to that rush, the adrenaline of like the chase, when there's a couple really great sequences in the film with the authorities. And it's just so interesting. I think he just was like, you know what? I want to be on the other side of the camera. I want to be the one making the art that people are, mystified by. Even his name, Mr. Brainwash, it's hilarious. Like it is such a terrible, brilliant name for someone who wants to come up with a pseudonym for what he's doing. And I just thought he was both sad, inspiring in a way, depressing. Like there's so many things going on with him that talk about that celebrity artist discussion.
It is amazing how impressionable Banksy was on him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again, different pronunciation
No,
every time. Yeah. If you can figure out how many times I pronounce his name in this episode.
A little spray can sound.
Yeah, you win a gift card
Yeah.
to Fandango.
Yeah.
No. How easily he was impressed upon by him,
Yeah.
for lack of better words. And it really like changed the trajectory of his life.
Yeah. No.
And again, like Banksy is kind of like having a Dr. Frankenstein moment at the end where it's like, I used to tell people to like always pursue their art.
Yes.
And he's like, now not so much.
Yeah, that's my favorite quote. Yeah, that is just such a funny way to, and his delivery of it too is just so perfect.
Just deadpan through the altered voice.
Exactly.
Two things came to mind like as I was watching it. It was the big speech at the end of Ratatouille where it's like not everyone can become a great artist, but a great artist can come from anywhere. And I was just like, wow, so this is kind of like the anti-version of that in a way. Yeah. And then I remember, we don't talk about TV a lot on here, but have you ever watched Better Call Saul?
No, I haven't.
Okay. There's this one part where Saul is getting yelled at by another lawyer, and he's like, I went to school for this, and you just do it because you think you're funny. And so he's like sort of criticizing Saul for like getting in so easily. Yeah. So I always thought like, when I watched this, I'm like, is Banksy like really angry at this guy for reaching such notoriety so quickly? Yeah,
his show was bigger than Banksy's, so it's like it was so interesting,
and he made millions.
Yeah, crazy amount,
which like made me mad.
It's funny when they showed they show at one point one of Mr. Brainwash's works, and I won't spoil it, but most of us have seen it. And when you see it and you realize, like, whoa, Mr. Brainwash did that thing. A popular singer had an album, and
that.
And Mr. Brainwash did the cover.
Yeah,
and it's an iconic album cover.
That blew my mind.
Same. I never. That's one thing that I'm just so excited every time I'm watching it with someone for the first time. Like I'm like, oh, just wait for it. Just wait for it. There's one more thing that's gonna floor you here.
To think that he got that high in notoriety, and then you just feel for Banksy because he's just kind of like sitting in the shadows, and he hasn't. I mean, he's still like the Robin Hood of street art, on the run and stuff.
And he wants it, though. Yeah. So that's what's so cool. It's just like that is what he is in this, to not just be an artist, but to be a prankster. And I love that.
I feel like we're going to be talking about this film for a while just because I'm still so conflicted with it.
Yes, yeah.
Because I'm like, am I team Brainwash? Am I team Banksy? Like, I don't know. I see both merits to both sides of it.
And I think you can be on both sides of it. Because if you think about it, Banksy was known within the world. He was like the Tiger Woods of street art. But if you don't follow street art, he wasn't on the map. But when this whole thing went down, it got a lot of attention from people who aren't artists, people who just either go to film festivals, follow the Oscars. It didn't win the Oscar, but it was nominated for Best Documentary.
I saw that, yeah.
It was, which I still was so upset that year, because I watched the one that won, and that to me is the traditional,
What was the one that won again?
It was, I believe it was Inside Man. It was about the financial crisis.
Oh, yeah.
It was just, okay, that's important. That's nice to look back on someday, but I'll tell you, I watched that once in theaters, and that was it. But I've seen Exit so many times. I've recommended Exit so many times.
Yeah, I need to buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how long that YouTube upload is.
Yeah, I know. It says it's been up for 6 years. So, that's a good sign. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Why do you think this film is still relevant today?
I think it's more relevant now than ever, honestly. So we are living in a time where libraries, museums, art, books, any sort of medium is being challenged for content on a regular daily basis. I've worked in libraries for 25, 26 years now, and I've never seen our society like this. And what's funny is I've talked to older authors who have said they thought the worst they were going to live through was the 70s and 80s, and it's worse now. And I find that so interesting. And Banksy represents rebellion. He represents speaking out against things you don't believe in. Whether or not you agree with his messages is not the point. It's the fact that he has the ability right now to make this art, to make these statements. And having that freedom is so important. And so I think this movie is a really fun, addictive adrenaline rush on one hand. But it's also a cautionary tale that if this all goes away, we are at a loss for so many things that we value and probably take for granted right now.
Yeah. And that sort of leads to my next question. What do you think some of the more important messages or themes of the film are?
I think there's a couple. There's some that are sillier that we've touched on, like not everyone can do everything, and that's okay. I think that the film really outlines the power of that art can have, the impact of a piece, the statements it can make. I think that, the message of everything is temporary is important. I think that the film outlines the power of film in general to tell a story in a creative way. As we saw in this movie, there was a lot of footage. Mr. Brainwash puts together his movie, and he's so excited to show Banksy. Yeah. And it's garbage. It's garbage. A fever nightmare. I don't even want to say fever dream. It's a fever nightmare of all this stuff that he thought was interesting and great, and after hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours of footage, he puts together this piece of absolute garbage. And I think it illustrates the point that we need to find what we're good at and go for it. But just because we like something, that doesn't mean we can go for it. I love to eat out, but I'm not going to be a chef. Like, I think the film has so many different messages in it that it's just so important now. And I see that, but I think the biggest one is the act of protest and the art and as rebellion is just so relevant.
And we were talking a bit about how like Mr. Brainwash got so famous while Banksy still is like the Robin Hood of street art. It still blows my mind that essentially Mr. Brainwash gave his identity away to people, and he's fine. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, why aren't you arresting him?
Oh, I don't know what he's faced. I actually, in terms of like maybe he has had mild slaps on the wrists, but he did rent his spaces. He did, and a lot of times they showed that stuff, but maybe the statute of limitations. Maybe he can say it was a film and he denies it. I don't know. I didn't look into that, but it is true. A lot of these street artists like to be secret, but we haven't mentioned there were a number of other street artists in the movie too. Shepard Fairey was pretty notable. You may have recognized his he did like the Obama poster.
Yeah, that blew my mind. I was like, oh, he did that. Wow.
Yeah, it's so neat. So I think a lot of these artists work in the rebellious fashion by night, but then do commission. They are artists. They commission real pieces. They have exhibits. Their work sells for millions of dollars. Banksy had a piece a few years ago that made the news when, as soon as the auction house closed the bidding and awarded the winner, it auto-shredded halfway. And as soon as it auto-shredded, the buyer was confronted by the Sotheby's auction house, and they were like, "Do you want to cancel the sale?" And they were like, "Absolutely not." And they anticipate the value like doubled because of this stunt. So he played a prank on Sotheby's, the biggest auction house in the world, and there's a lot on that if you're interested. It's so much interesting stuff that he's done.
Are there other documentaries on his work? When I was exploring online, I thought I saw more.
There's another street art documentary that I started and stopped. It didn't grab me like this one did. I can't remember the name at this point. It covered a lot of street artists. It wasn't a Banksy film. It was told more traditionally. And I think that also goes to show how when you take a topic, you can have a topic that can seem dry. You might be listening to this and thinking, I don't care about street art. And when I walked into
I hope not.
Right. But you might. And I mean, you can watch this film and be like, oh my gosh, even if I don't love it and even if my worldview doesn't change, that was so creatively done. Yeah. And I thought the same thing about the documentary Free Solo. I didn't care at all about rock climbing. I went to see that solely because it got an Oscar nomination. And I went to the theaters kind of begrudgingly. I was like, fine, I'll watch this movie about someone climbing up a rock. I mean, like, that's your own stupid task. Like, I don't know why I should care about you. I was blown away. I saw it twice, once on IMAX. It was just such a great experience. And I think if people have an open mind, especially with documentaries, you'll put yourself in the shoes of other people that you may not ever learn about otherwise.
I had a similar experience. I had a similar Free Solo experience with Parasite.
Oh, yeah.
Because I was kind of like, oh, what a surprise. The story about, class systems clashing won the Oscar, whatever. Yeah. And then my girlfriend, now fiance, is like, you got to see this movie. Yeah. And we sat down and watched it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah. That's great.
That's great. Yeah.
Great movie.
We talk so much about, like, art being, like, in jeopardy and temporary artwork. And we talked a little bit about before we started recording, but I told you when I went to go watch this film, it wasn't available streaming anywhere. Yeah. And a DVD being shipped to me was not going to reach me by today. And you and I both had to watch it on YouTube illegally. What do you think that says about, like, it's very meta because it's very much like the message this movie is talking to us about, but then it speaks a lot about what's happening to movies and media right now.
Yeah. No, it's really disheartening. As I said, I worked at a library for a long time. And for many of those years, I worked in part at a service desk where people would put in the requests for things they wanted. And people consistently ask for anything that's like Oscar nominated or makes the news or that Tom Hanks is in. They'll ask for it. And a lot of the times, these things are on streaming services exclusively. Now, they've never even been released physically. Right. So while it's hard, I own a copy of Exit on DVD. I couldn't find it because I just went through a move. And so I just went online to like, because I wanted to refresh for today. I'd seen it a bunch, and it's still, that's what's so cool about this movie is it holds up. Like, I've seen it so many times, and I was like, I just want it one more time. And like, I was not bored for a minute. But Fortunately, it was on YouTube. It's been on YouTube for 6 years, so that's, I think the studios, like, if they may not be endorsing it, but they're not like rushing to pull it down. So at least that's accessible. But it is sad. I love physical media. I have a big physical media collection personally. I love to collect the Criterion Blu-rays. I think it's going to be so sad when people don't have that experience and that easy access. This past winter, we were doing a holiday film series at the library, and our copy of Muppet Christmas Carol was scratched.
Oh, no.
And it was just 2 days before we were going to show it. And so I didn't even panic. I'm like, oh, it's Muppet Christmas Carol. I can find this anywhere. It's the holidays, whatever. I went to 3 Walmarts, 2 Targets, a Best Buy, and the entire Burlington Mall and could not find it. And then I started to panic. It's like, if you can't find a popular Christmas classic, a Disney movie to boot easily, exit through the gift shop, and smaller films are going to have no chance. And so I think it's really important that podcasts like yours exist to really push this importance of movies and cinema and the many forms. Not everyone has the money to just go out and spend $60 on a bootleg copy of something because they want to watch it. I love libraries because we can connect people to most films. We really can. We can find it somewhere and have it shipped. But there is something to be said for having that physical media in your household to be able to quickly grab it and watch it when you're ready to watch it.
Yeah. If you ever need a copy of Muppet Christmas Carol in a jam again, just call me.
Oh, thank you. I will.
Yeah. No, if you need any copies,
Yeah.
just let me know. I got a big physical media collection. I bought 5 Criterions for my birthday this year.
That's great. Awesome. Which ones?
So this is so basic. I got Citizen Kane.
That's
I got Dr. Strangelove, which
great.
Perfect timing.
Yeah.
I got one of your favorites, Mulholland Drive.
Oh, great.
I got Wall-E, which is like literally the only Disney Pixar film in Criterion.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so I'm like, I gotta get this. And I pre-ordered Anora.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
Nice.
So
Nice.
awesome.
So that's great.
And I didn't get it this weekend, but another thing, we talk about streaming and stuff, they put Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio on Criterion.
Oh, that's different.
And I love that movie.
Yeah,
and
even the song?
Yeah, even the song.
Oh, okay.
I'm like,
you're in a rare class there.
Wait, what?
Oh, that Poppy song?
Which one?
The song that I think it won the Oscar or was nominated for the Oscar from Pinocchio. It's been so made fun of online that it's just like I've never met somebody in real life who liked it. So that's great.
There was a song from Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio that won. I'm blanking. I do not remember that song.
I thought for sure it was from that movie. I have to look it up, but I know.
Yeah, I'm blowing.
Okay, no, it's interesting.
Okay, but yeah, no, it's when I see like a streaming movie on a physical release, I'm like, I need it.
Yeah,
because it will go away.
Exactly,
I'll never see it again.
And Criterion rescues some of those. I know they put, I believe, Marriage Story. That was a Netflix original. There were plans to do the same with Killers of the Flower Moon, but then I haven't seen that yet come out. So it is interesting. The only upside is it does make it harder to see Emilia Perez.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Which is fine.
Had to say it.
Which is fine. I don't know if I could. I've seen Killers of the Flower Moon twice. I don't know if I could do it again.
Yeah, it's one of those epic movies are ones that sometimes you find yourself in the mood for, though, and like, oh, I want to see that story again. I want to talk to or share it with someone. But I know they're not as rewatchable as others.
Did you see Killers of the Flower Moon in theaters?
I did.
Yeah.
Opening weekend.
It was a point of honor for me to sit through that entire movie without leaving. And I saw people like leaving to go to the bathroom.
Really?
Like, you get wusses.
Did you go to see The Brutalist?
I did go see The Brutalist.
That was excellent.
Yeah.
And see, that's, to me, it's not about the length of a movie. It's about the content of the movie. I've seen 90-minute movies I've wanted to run from, and then I'll sit through a 3-hour and 40-minute movie like that.
And again, like they gave us a 15-minute intermission, which was great.
That was wonderful.
Yeah. And again, like you said, like it's the pacing.
Yes.
It all goes down to that. Like I just watched on Netflix, it's called Girlfriend's Day. It stars Bob Odenkirk. It's only an hour and 10 minutes. And I'm like, perfect. Normalized movies this short. The pacing is so off.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I'm like, what's going on? Like The Brutalist is more captivating than
Exactly.
Yeah. But no, it's sad that like certain films are like just being hidden behind a paywall, or in some cases just deleted.
And it's funny. I don't know if you heard about a couple of years ago. I just saw a story that they might be reviving it, but there was an animated Warner. I think it was Looney Tunes
Coyote
movie.
versus
Coyote versus Acme.
Yeah.
And they were like, "We'll take the tax write-off
Yeah, it's
never
terrible.
let it see the light of day. I hear it was just saved,
Yeah,
which is interesting. But the fact that a studio has the right to get a tax write-off is problematic.
It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, thankfully, the indie studio called Ketchup Entertainment
Yes.
bought it out.
Yes.
And they rescued the other Looney Tunes movie that just came out.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, which is incredible. I would definitely
Was it
recommend
good?
If, yeah,
Yeah,
if you
good to know.
love good old Looney Tunes
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah. But then there's like that Batgirl film that they just deleted.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
That's wild.
Which is terrible because like now people like they can't use it for their film reels,
Right.
To show like the work they did and stuff.
Brendan Fraser was so excited about that.
I know.
Yeah, I was
He
like,
just
I want to
won
see
an
that.
Oscar.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I'm like, this is part of Brendan Fraser's comeback, and you just deleted it.
it's so frustrating.
Anyway, back to Exit Through
Sure.
the Gift
Yes.
Shop.
Yes.
I know.
Exit through the conversation.
This.
Yeah, no.
Oh, how do you think this film is a reflection of your tastes in movies, in stories?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So I like to be taken on a ride. I like to not know where I'm going when I get into the theater. I have referenced earlier, I do not like to see too much about a movie if I don't know the general plot. So when I went into this one, I was like, okay, they're going to tell me about street artists. It's getting great reviews, so I'm curious. But I had no idea where it was going. My favorite movie of all time, like you said, is Mulholland Drive. I loved last year. The Substance was my favorite movie of the year. I love those movies that just you strap in and you are not, you don't lose the attention of the film screen until the credits roll. And that doesn't mean it has to be a wildly edited film. Like, I love the movie Tar. Some people think it's boring.
Man.
I'm obsessed with that film.
You are?
I watched it 3 times in theaters.
3 times?
I love that movie. I bought that the day it came out on physical media.
All right.
I think it's a masterpiece.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Exit
Hey,
through the
if
gift
you
shop
love
deleted.
it,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah.
I'm proud that you
I love
that
it,
movie.
yes.
It didn't hit me the same
Oh,
way.
okay. Oh.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
So when you're like looking at movies, does it matter if it's a narrative or a documentary? Or you just look for the good story.
I look for a good story, and and I do think documentaries are important. I actually advocate to see documentaries in theaters. I think having that captive experience and a shared experience when you're watching a documentary is so powerful on the big screen. Whereas if you're at home, there's so many more distractions. It's easy to kind of dismiss it as like a news piece or something. Oh, I'll catch up with that later. But when you're in a theater, it's so much easier to experience what the storytellers are trying to say. I hosted an event with an author who I won't name, but they, as part of their talk and their creation process, said that they hated documentary films. They said it's the most biased form of storytelling. You can never trust what you see with a documentary. And I was hosting the event, so I was respectful and kept quiet. So this feels like a redemption opportunity.
Nice.
But to those who were in attendance, I disagree. Because the thing that's so beautiful about a documentary is that you can easily hear one person's side without static, without interference. You can hear what they have to say. Does it mean everything is true? Absolutely not. And if you watch a film and buy everything, let me tell you about some sales opportunities. Yeah. But like, you should go into these films and seeing them as something that will spark your interest in other things.
Yeah.
In that topic, you should watch the movie, then read the book, then look for the counter arguments, and it should spark something in you to want to learn more.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about documentaries. You get to really be introduced to one experience from their perspective. If they leave something off the table, that's on them.
Yeah. No, you make a good point about seeing a documentary in theaters, because I've only seen 2 in theaters, and we talk about experiences in theaters. The Mr. Rogers documentary, it's Won't You Be My Neighbor?
Yes.
I saw that in the theaters, and man, I don't think there was a dry eye in the audience. No, and then I'm going to sound like I'm making this up, but I was sitting next to a blind man in the theater.
Oh, okay.
And like he was like it was Mr. Rogers is all about overcoming your disabilities, liking just the way you are. And I heard the man say to his wife, he's talking about me, and I'm just like, it kind of like I went like this in my head. I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
And then I took my mother to see the Christopher Reeve Superman documentary, because she loves Christopher Reeve Superman. Yeah. And there was a moment in it's kind of spoilers, but it's talking about how Christopher Reeve was such a close friend of Robin Williams, and it talks about their relationship. And I swear, like, there's this gut punch of a line from one of the interviews, and you just heard like the emotion just come right out of everyone in the room at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good shared experience. When you have a crowd that appreciates film going and isn't on their phones.
Yes.
The shared experience is one of the best things about going to the movies. And it's sad because we're in a state where films are really struggling. Cinemas are really struggling. They're
Yeah.
closing, and it's so depressing, especially as someone who's seen so many movies. And I used to go see, my best year was 113 in theaters in a year.
Wow.
And I used to keep a log before Letterboxd days. And I just love going to the movies. But it's since the pandemic specifically, the crowds have been really challenging. And when people tell me
Yes.
like, oh, I don't like going to the theaters because everyone's on their phones, I want to argue with them, but I get it. And that's what's so upsetting to me. I'm the person who will call you out if you're on your phone at the theater, and I make no apologies because I want
Nice.
that experience to be preserved. And if you think I should mind my own business, we will get somebody else involved because I want that experience to be better for everyone in the room. I want theaters to be packed again. It is, as much as I hate seeing the certain types of movies make, $200 million. I'm at least happy the theaters are getting some business because that lets me see the documentary when they finally bring it for one weekend.
Right. I'm glad to hear you say so much about like advocating for the cinematic experience because I will stay at a theater for a whole day and I will watch 3 movies.
Oh, that is amazing. But 3 is great. I did 4 once, and I wouldn't advocate for that because you forget what numbers 1 and 2 are about.
Exactly. The most I've ever done is I did the AMC Best Picture Marathon.
Oh, wow.
Which they split it in 2 days.
2 days.
And like it was 5 movies. I'm like,
I've never
that's
done
enough.
That, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, but be respectful in the movie theater.
Seriously.
Folks. Seriously. I mean, I've seen all these TikToks of like people acting like maniacs in this Minecraft movie, and I'm like, cops are getting called, and I'm like,
it's so funny,
Yeah.
but not.
Then you get the nice moments where I saw Moana 2 in theaters, and it was like a Monday night, and it was just me in the theater, and I was like, this is perfect. And then I see this group of teenagers. It was like a triple double date, and I'm like, oh no.
There it goes.
And they were so quiet and respectful the whole time.
That's great.
And I just wanted to be like the old man, like, thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. But enough about Moana.
No, yeah.
So did cinema influence your career path in any way?
It really did. So, in a weird way, so I went to school for broadcasting. I have a degree in broadcasting. I also have a certificate in graphic design, and I always thought I would be going into some form of working on television or film. It's what I wanted all throughout high school. That was the goal. I got accepted to a college out in LA. I was like, this is going to be my future. And then for monetary reasons, I ended up not doing that. And then I had health reasons that actually sent me into libraries, which was funny because I had been a page in libraries in high school. And then I got a job in a library in college. And I was like, this is just a student thing. And then when I get out, I'll be the real professional. And then I got a professional job in libraries. And I've been working in libraries my entire life since I was 15. And I love it so much because 13 of those years so far have been in programming. Awesome. And I've been able to weave my love of films into a variety of programs. There was a documentary called No Impact Man about a couple in New York City who tried to live with 0 carbon footprint for a year.
Oh, wow.
And he wrote a book about it. It was a very interesting book, and he had a documentary about it. And he put out a curriculum that people could buy to kind of see how it went, to kind of supplement his project. And he offered it to the library I was working at for free. And I led a week-long camp for kids to come and learn the different components of, recycling and going, like reducing your imprint on, society. And it was really, really interesting. We also recently had a Wicked sing-along. We had tons of people came out to that, and it was so much fun.
Awesome.
And it was just really neat to see.
And they were singing.
They were singing at once Popular hit. They started singing. It was like everyone was like, I don't know if people are going to sing. I don't know if people are going to sing. Popular hits, and I think there's something that overtakes you. And then just the rest of the movie was wonderful. So it was great.
Everybody doing their defying gravity battle cry.
I recorded that. No.
Oh my god.
It is hilarious, although it's kind of hard to see because Cynthia's pipes can drown out just about anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be a perfect video of the week for BK.
Yeah.
Just like the entire Burlington
I
Library
know. I should
doing the
send it,
Wicked
yeah.
battle. Yeah, please send it.
Yeah, I will.
Can I ask, where did you go to school?
I went to school in Southeastern in Florida.
Okay. And then you went to LA. Where did you go?
Well, I didn't go to LA, unfortunately, because the money just didn't work. I was hoping to. I was gonna go out to a college, Vanguard.
Okay, that's where you went to college, yeah.
And I didn't end up going there, though, because just the money didn't come through. And it all worked out.
Yeah. And now, like you said, you're interweaving your love of film into the Burlington Library. So what are some other documentaries that really have stay in the forefront of your mind when you think of your favorite documentaries that have made an impact on you?
Sure. So when you first invited me to be a part of this, I was so excited, but also then I had like a mini movie panic attack because I was like, I love movies so much. I want to talk about the right thing. And I thought about what films have really impacted my life. And there's really only a handful. I love a ton of movies, don't get me wrong, but I think ones that impact your life are different than ones you love. Sometimes they can cross.
Yeah, they intersect.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
So I was thinking, and there's a couple documentaries that really shifted my perception of things in the world, changed my view of things in life. And Exit Through the Gift Shop was one, and it's an interesting movie to talk about. The other one that's less interesting to talk about but had a profound impact was the movie Food Inc. They did make a sequel too, but the first one is the one I would recommend watching. Food Inc. talks about the factory farming industry, and after I saw that film, I started doing a lot of research, reading a lot of books on factory farming. And I was shocked at how accurate that film was. You know, when people talk about things being completely biased and, they could have had, they could have not shown you everything. I was like, I want to learn more. And I got even more horrified. And I said, I'm going to try being a vegetarian for a week. And I've been a vegetarian since that movie came out now. And that was something that happened because of that movie alone. That sparked that curiosity, sparked that educational process. And then I really, really loved the, as I mentioned, Free Solo. I didn't start rock climbing or anything after that one, but it was, I thought that was a great movie. I thought, what was it? There was another one that I wanted to talk about, and now it's just escaping me. But
you did mention to me in an email there was a film that almost got you kicked out of college.
That's the one I was going to talk about. Thank you.
We can save that for the next episode if you want.
No, it's okay. So one of the most popular documentarians is Michael Moore.
Yes.
Now
I know how you got kicked out.
Yeah. I went to my college was very conservative. Michael Moore is very not conservative.
No.
If you don't know Michael Moore, he came on the map with documentaries with Roger and Me about the car industry. He did Fahrenheit 9/11. He's done Sicko about the healthcare industry. He tackles really important topics and really important topics to me personally. I do not like Michael Moore. Even though I align politically with him on a lot of things, the way he does documentaries does a disservice to documentaries. I think he is one of the reasons people talk about you can't trust a documentary and they're too biased. So when I was in college, it was the Gore Bush time of things.
Yes.
And he released Fahrenheit 9/11. Michael Moore released Fahrenheit 9/11. And I wanted to do a discussion on the film at my campus. So there was a process. You reserve a room. You post your event, and I followed all the protocol, got it approved. We're going to do a discussion on this movie. And then the college Republicans had an issue with that. They did not want me holding an event on this movie about, dare you in a swing state. And so the president was of the college at the university now was the big, I don't know, whatever college Republican head person is. He was the dean of that, whatever. And so he called a meeting with me, and I was terrified. I'm like, I'm just trying to show a movie and discuss it. And I had printed out a list of things that were inaccurate in the movie, and I wanted to have a discussion about media. I was a broadcasting major. I thought the way it was covered was so interesting because I saw the film in theaters, and then they released it really quickly on physical media because they wanted people to watch it before the election. And I said, I want to discuss this. This is a really good discussion movie. And so when I had a meeting with the president, he told me I had better be careful, and my days were numbered if this event went on. And not only, no, I'm sorry. My days were numbered if I kept bothering him about this event because he had already canceled the event. And it became this thing where a handful of my friends were so offended for me, I was upset, that we contacted the local media. We were dumb college kids. And the media was about to do a story on it. And then I had a professor who I respected so much who said, think about your future. You are, if you want to graduate and you don't want to lose your credits, you don't want to get kicked out of college, you may want to just back away from this and not do the interview with the media and just, not fight this battle, even though you may be justified to fight it. And I took that advice and I didn't fight that battle. Sometimes I wonder if I should have, but it was interesting. And that was a documentary that really could have shifted my life if I had gotten kicked out. So I don't know where I'd be now.
I wonder if that figurehead was a registered donor for any certain Republican.
I would guarantee it.
Yeah. Wow. Exit Through the Gift Shop would still get you in trouble, but in a different way.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think? Why do you think audiences should see Exit Through the Gift Shop?
I think it's something that's accessible for people who don't normally go outside their viewing comfort zones. Mm-hmm. I think that it's a movie that you can talk to your grandma about, you can talk to your best friend about. Mm-hmm. They will find something to connect with in this movie. Mm-hmm. Like I said, it's a tight 90 minutes. That's like 87 minutes. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to watch. Some documentaries are 2.5 hours, or they're told in a slow way where it feels like 4 hours. This is a fast-moving film that even if it doesn't resonate with you, it's not going to take long to go through it, and you'll probably appreciate at least something in it. Mm-hmm. I think movies like this need to be celebrated. We don't have enough of them. One of the things that I think we don't have enough of is the creative risk-taking. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you saw the movie American Fiction a couple of years ago.
Oh, my God. One of my favorite Best Picture nominees from that year.
Yeah, excellent movie. It was written by Cord Jefferson, and when he won the screenplay Oscar, he said it something that has resonated with me since he said it. And it's I understand that this is a risk-adverse industry, but a $200 million movie is also a risk. Mm-hmm. Instead of making one $200 million movie, try making 20 $10 million movies or 50 $4 million movies. Mm-hmm. And I love that so much because you see these big blockbusters like Snow White failing
I was going to mention
miserably.
Snow White because you were triggering that in my mind. Yeah.
And you have to say, like, if they had divvied that up amongst 20 up-and-coming filmmakers, like, did you see Talk to Me?
No, I did not.
It's a horror film. Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Mm-hmm. I loved that movie. And it was made on a low budget from two up-and-coming like filmmakers. And I was like, those are the people we should be throwing this money at. Yeah. And that's why I think Exit to the Gift Shop through the Gift Shop is so powerful, is that they made this movie for almost nothing.
Yeah, it's
and it has
guerrilla filmmaking.
Exactly,
right?
exactly. And it's so powerful. Mm-hmm. And that's why I would just say, like, you know, go on YouTube while it's there and catch it, because I think that's actually a fun way to watch it too, just given the movie.
And it's kind of a full circle moment here for us because like Anora was very low budget.
Yes, that was very low budget.
Yeah, I think it was only like $5 million or something. Yeah. So
they spent They spent like 3 times as much on the Oscar campaign than they did on the actual movie.
I saw that. Yeah. But yeah, Snow White, they're taking a big bath with that one.
Yeah, and good.
Like you said, like that money could have funded 20 original Disney films.
Exactly. Well, they halted the Tangled live action remake, which the Tangled's one of my favorite movies too. That was almost when I emailed you. I was like, and then I went through the list of the other things you've talked about. I'm like, okay,
if
I think
you want to do Tangled, we can do Tangled.
Yeah. I love that movie so much, and when I heard they were greenlighting a live action, I was like, oh no.
I know, it's like I said this in a recent episode, but to me it's not a matter of if but when a Disney movie gets remade. I don't know if Tangled's being halted, maybe that's the end of it. Yeah. So to wrap up, Dan, why does Exit Through the Gift Shop matter to you?
Sure. I would hate to live in a world without boundary pushing filmmaking. As someone who's deeply opposed to censorship and artistic restrictions, this film embodies creative resistance. It celebrates standing up for expression, even when society deems it unlawful or inappropriate. The revolutionary spirit of Exit reminds us that art isn't just about aesthetics. It's about challenging perceptions and sparking dialogue. I dare anyone to watch it and not forever see street art through a different lens. One of my favorite Banksy quotes is, "There's nothing more dangerous than someone who wants to make the world a better place." I feel very similarly about documentaries. Each one has a perspective and a story that makes a case either for or against something, and as viewers we can start a different journey each time we watch one. Exit Through the Gift Shop took me on a journey that I will never forget, and I want others to have that same emotional experience.
Excellent. Yeah, I think all creatives, all people who just appreciate art can take something away from this film.
Exactly.
Hey everybody, Chris from the future here. Dan and I forgot to touch on his close encounter with Banksy from a few years ago, and he's allowed me to share it with you now. In October 2014, I was in New York for a Broadway show, and beforehand took a walk through Central Park. There are often many vendors, and I noticed one with a sign that said spray art for $60 along with a bunch of canvases. I immediately recognized the art looked Banksy-esque and was furious. Quote, "This scammer is blatantly ripping off Banksy." Days later, headlines revealed that Banksy himself had set up an anonymous stand selling authentic works for $60 for one day only. Works that would now be worth tens of thousands. I literally broke into tears realizing I walked right past one of the artist's most ingenious public stunts. Banksy reported not selling much at all via this old man that he hired, and it took about 4 hours to sell anything at all. And someone even asked for 2 for the price of 1, and got it. Still makes me cringe. And all these weeks later, after recording this episode, I still have trouble pronouncing Banksy. let's go back to our regularly scheduled episode. Dan, this is incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're definitely coming back.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, please come back again. And any other documentaries you want to recommend to me right now?
Oh, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. I was thinking of that through this. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pause. I'm going to wait right now because I've seen a bunch. Some of them are tougher watches. There's a movie called The Gatekeepers. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting film about the security force in Israel. Okay. And their work, they work to prevent the doomsday, the people who want to usher doomsday. Mm-hmm. The topic of it is so interesting. Mm-hmm. However, the execution is kind of slow. I went in thinking I was going to get another exit through the gift shop adrenaline rush with these people following people trying to end the world. Mm-hmm. And it was very slow. Mm-hmm. It was very good, but it's not for everyone. Mm-hmm. And the films don't have to be. But I think when we're trying to recommend and elevate films like Exit Through the Gift Shop, anyone could love. Yeah. But that's tougher. There's also the movie Blackfish, which... Mm-hmm. I hate movies that show tons of harm to animals, even though I mentioned Food Inc. already, which is kind of the apex of that. But Blackfish is about the way we keep animals for our entertainment. Mm-hmm. Very powerful, very tough. We had this year, there were a couple movies about everything going on in the Middle East, No Other Land, and there was one called From Ground Zero, which is a bunch of vignettes about people who are living in Gaza right now and showing how this isn't just a Hamas terrorist area. There's so much going on in this part of the world that is getting destroyed. And it was so powerful because they showed one person who runs a little puppet show, one person who runs a restaurant, and all these little vignettes. And it's a hard watch, but it's a really powerful movie.
I had a very different documentary recommendation
for you.
Which one? Well, now I'm thinking maybe because I know you're a Disney guy, you might have already seen it, the Howard Ashman documentary.
I didn't watch it.
You should definitely watch it? Okay. The Life About Howard Ashman.
Interesting.
It is beautiful. And
I've seen that listed.
It's great. It was one of my favorite movies of 2020, and you will cry.
Oh, that's good. Oh, nice. Thank you. Any others?
That's my only one right now. We already talked about the other two.
Right, exactly.
Oh, and also Waking Sleeping Beauty, about how they came back out of their slump in the 80s. And then the Renaissance, that was really great.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
I think that is on Disney Plus still. Okay. I'm not sure. If not, I have a physical copy.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. And if you're into the more vintage stuff, there was a Mary Tyler Moore documentary that they did. I believe it was on, I want to say Netflix. That's the problem with all these streaming services too, just from the organizational standpoint. I'm like, you want to recommend it? I'm like, wait, that may have been an Apple TV. No, actually, that was a Hulu. No, actually, that was a HBO Max. There's too many. But there was one about Mary Tyler Moore, and I love Mary Tyler Moore. That was one of my favorite shows growing up. And that's the story of her just all put together nicely. Is that if you talk about ones where we cry at for a good reason, that's one.
Okay. What's the next cinema night at the library?
So the next cinema night is this. Coming up soon, we're doing our last Sunday cinema where we're doing A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic with Timothy Chalamet.
Have you seen it already?
I have.
Did you enjoy it?
I hope other people love it. Okay. It was my 9th out of 10th on my list of Oscars this year. I think it's the first 20 minutes is great, and then it's very standard biopic. If you like that, you'll love it.
Yeah, I thought it was a very standard biopic too, and also I really wish the back half where they were kind of going over how he wanted to change his style, and then the folk music community was kind of pushing back against him. Yeah, I really thought there was more to say there about how does an artist juggle what they want to do versus what people expect them to do. I wish it was more like that, but anyway.
Yeah, he just looked like a cranky teenager for most of it, and I think he's a very talented actor. Don't get me wrong, and he did a good job, but that movie I felt disconnected after the first 20 minutes, half hour, and I was just please.
Do you think Adrian Brody deserved that Oscar, though?
100%.
Okay. 100%. Even though he used AI?
I don't think he really did. I looked a lot into that. I read a lot of articles about it. It's very common in film nowadays for years to use dialect editing in the editing room. Okay. And now that AI buzzwords are such a thing, people treat AI like it's this giant weapon when they really understand it, very little. And especially when it comes to filmmaking. But if you do some research on it, it's very interesting to see how much of that was his. He actually has some of the ancestry of the character from the film.
Oh, really?
He is very connected to that. But in any film, they do touch-ups afterwards in just about anything. Okay. And because they use a software program to do these touch-ups, they're calling it AI because it's not his actual words coming out for a very small point, and it's just inflections. And that performance, if you have seen The Brutalist, it's just, I think there's so much to it that earned him every bit of that Oscar. I don't think he's a great human. But
as the speech went on, I'm like, no, I'm not super happy.
Yeah, that speech was terrible. Like, my goodness, that movie.
Yeah.
It was as long as The Brutalist, which is really interesting. No, if I was picking based on heart in that category, it would have been Coleman Domingo for Sing Sing.
I think the movie is still on my watch list.
Yeah, we had that recently at the library, huge crowd. I was so impressed with how many people came out to see this movie that did not do well in theaters. They had a terrible rollout. A24, excellent studio. They need better marketing people because that movie should have been a front runner for Best Picture. I am shocked that it didn't get more love. It's purely marketing because everyone I know that has seen that movie, it's either good, great, or one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's just people really resonate with it.
I could go on an A24 tangent, but we got to wrap up.
Oh, yeah. I know, right?
Save it for next time. But thank you so much, Dan.
No, thank you.
And folks, thank you for listening to another episode of Movies That Matter. Coincidentally enough, our next episode will also feature another film that premiered on Sundance, but that's a story for another day. If you'd like to get in touch with me about the show, you can reach me either at Gmail or Instagram at Movies That Matter Pod. The show is now available on YouTube too. You can also be my friend and Dan's friend on Letterboxd at Chris Loves Films, spelled Luvs. My last 4 watches were, unsurprisingly, Exit Through the Gift Shop, Home Alone, don't judge me, we just took our Christmas tree down yesterday.
That's great.
2021's West Side Story, and a fascinating case study for editing in the 11th hour, Moana 2. I kid, I did enjoy it. Great. But folks, the real world is scary. Don't forget to love each other, and when life gets too scary, immerse yourself in your favorite movie or piece of media. Don't worry about box office numbers or Rotten Tomatoes scores. Watch what you love. Entertainment is subjective, and that's not a bad thing. Until next time, this has been Chris Flaherty. Thank you for listening to Movies That Matter.